So today, we're going to try and get inside the world of an autistic child, specifically around the ages of 7 to 12. The goal here is to really shift our perspective, to move beyond just looking at a child's behavior and start to truly understand the experience that's driving it.
And it really all starts with this one single idea. A child isn't giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. When we can see tough behavior as a signal of distress, not defiance, our entire approach just changes. The question isn't, how do I stop this, but how can I help?
All right, so first up, the world through their eyes. Before we can even begin to understand behavior, we have to try to understand their perception of the world, especially the social world, which can feel incredibly confusing and overwhelming.
Let's just get this out of the way right now. It's a huge myth. For so many autistic kids, the desire for friendship, for connection is absolutely there. It's strong. The problem isn't a lack of wanting to connect. It's trying to figure out the how, navigating all these unwritten social rules that a lot of us just take for granted.
Think about it. So much of how we communicate isn't in our words. It's in our tone, our faces. For an autistic child, it can be like trying to watch a movie with the sound muted and no subtitles. Missing those cues makes it almost impossible to know if someone is being friendly or mean, if they're serious or if they're joking. And this is just a perfect example of that confusion. Okay, so someone spills juice all over the floor, and a friend says, "Oh, that's great." A neurotypical brain usually gets the sarcastic tone and knows it means that's awful. But for a literal thinker, the words completely contradict what just happened. It's a social puzzle that doesn't make any sense.
So you might see a kid playing alone with Legos or just watching a group from the sidelines. And it's so easy to think they're being antisocial, but that's not what's happening. It's often just a way to manage all the social and sensory chaos. Structured play feels safe. And here's the really important part. When they do find people who get them, these kids can form some of the deepest, most loyal friendships imaginable. Okay, so how does this internal world, all this confusion and sensory input, lead to the external behaviors that we see? Well, when the world gets to be too much, the body sends out warning signals. Our job is to learn how to read them before the storm really breaks.
This is it. This is the core idea. A meltdown, a shutdown, lashing out, it's not random. It's a raw, unfiltered attempt to communicate that something is deeply wrong, that they're scared or overloaded or in pain and just don't have another way to say it. So, a volcano doesn't just erupt out of nowhere, right? There are always tremors first. In this context, we call those rumble signs. Being able to spot these is probably the single most powerful tool we have for prevention, because it lets us step in and help before their whole system just gets completely overwhelmed.
And here are some of the big ones to watch for. It could be physical, like covering their ears or clenching their fists. It could be verbal, repeating a phrase over and over. Or it could be the total opposite, like suddenly going quiet and withdrawn. The goal is to see these and immediately think, okay, the pressure is building, how can I help lower it right now?
This is such a brilliant tool because it makes feelings visible. We can actually teach kids to identify where they are on this thermometer. Those rumble signs, they all happen in the yellow zone. If we can help them recognize I'm feeling yellow, we give them the power to ask for help before they hit the red. But what happens if we miss the signs? What if a full meltdown happens? This next part is all about our role in that moment. And our role is not to be a disciplinarian. It's to be a calm anchor in their emotional storm.
Okay, during a meltdown, you have to remember that the logical thinking part of the brain is offline. It's just not working. So reasoning and lectures are useless. Your priority list is short and simple. Safety first. Give them space. Lower your voice. Dim the lights. Reduce noise. And just accept that you can't stop the storm. You just have to provide a safe harbor until it passes.
And here's the thing that's so hard to remember in the moment, but it's everything. Your own nervous system is your most powerful tool. When you stay calm, when your voice is steady and your breathing is even, you are sending a powerful nonverbal message of safety. You actually become a co-regulator, helping their panic system find its way back to calm.
Words should be minimal, but the ones you use have to be powerful. This phrase, "you're safe," isn't trying to reason with them. It's speaking directly to that primal part of the brain that is just screaming, "Danger!" It's pure, simple reassurance. And this one is just as important. It communicates presence without adding any pressure.
It simply says, you are not alone in this terrifying moment, and I am not going to leave you.
Okay, the storm has passed. What now? Because honestly, the moments after a meltdown are just as critical as the moments during. This is where we shift from crisis management to connection and eventually learning.
Right after, the child is often completely exhausted and maybe even ashamed. This is not the time for consequences or lectures. It's a time for quiet connection. Maybe just offering a glass of water. Once they're totally calm again, then we can become gentle detectives together and try to figure out what happened.
And this becomes the big question. What was the trigger? Was it sensory? Was the classroom just too loud? Was it social frustration from being misunderstood? Was it anxiety because the schedule suddenly changed? Sometimes keeping a little log can help you see patterns you'd otherwise miss.
This phrase, it's a total game changer. It takes all the shame out of the equation and replaces it with collaboration. It teaches the child that they can trust you, that their distress will be met with help, not anger. And that's what builds the foundation for them to come to you before the next storm hits.
So let's zoom out. Of course, managing crises is important, but the real goal is to create a world where they happen a lot less often. This is all about shifting from being reactive to being proactive.
And this breaks it down really nicely into practical, doable things. At school, predictability is your best friend. Visual schedules, a designated quiet space, these things reduce anxiety. At home, you can use TV shows or books to talk about social cues in a really low-pressure way. And this is a big one. We can teach their peers that different brains work in different ways, and that's okay.
And really, if you take just one thing away today, let it be this. Real support isn't about trying to change the child to make them fit into our world. It's about making small, compassionate changes in the world to fit the child's needs. It's a move from demanding conformity to offering support.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought to carry with you. What if we changed our perspective entirely? What if a meltdown isn't a behavior problem to be managed, but an unfiltered, desperate cry for help? Because how you answer that cry, well, that can change everything.